of the biggest mistakes designers make with AI generated visuals. So they generate one background, one illustration, and one random texture or a cool looking hero image. And suddenly the project has assets, but it does not have a system. So everything looks different, nothing feels connected. And when you see these visuals in carousels, poster, landing page, or portfolio presentation, the entire product starts to feel inconsistent. So in this episode, we are not going to generate images, we are going to create an asset library, which is a small reusable collection of launch visuals, backgrounds, illustrations, textures, and graphic elements that feel like they belong to the same product. Before we get into the episode, thank you for Adobe for sponsoring this video. In this series, I'm using Adobe Firefly and Adobe Express to show how designers can turn product screens into launch-ready visual content. In episode 1, we defined the product personality. In episode 2, we built the visual direction in Adobe Firefly. Now in episode 3, we will use that direction to generate a consistent asset library for FlowPilot. The goal is simple. By the end of this episode, we should have enough reusable visual assets to support carousels, launch posters, feature announcements, social posts, and portfolio presentations. So let's dive into the video. Let's first discuss what is asset library. An asset library is a collection of reusable visual pieces that support the product's communication. Think of it like a mini visual toolkit. Instead of generating something new every single time in any AI tool, for FlowPilot, our asset library can be launch visuals for hero sections and announcement posters, backgrounds for carousels and presentation slides, illustrations for explaining features in the product, textures for adding depth to the product, graphic elements like abstract parts, cards, flows, shapes, and icons. The important part is not just variety, the important part is consistency. So what I mean by consistency is everything should feel like it came from the same visual world. So before we start generating anything, we bring back the visual direction from episode 2. So for FlowPilot, the direction is modern AI productivity, soft gradient energy, abstract workflow paths, clean spacious layout, premium startup feel, subtle depth, and more. So this is important because every prompt we write today should come from this particular direction. If we ignore the direction we demonstrated in episode 2, Firefly will give us random images. But if we keep repeating the same creative rules, the outputs will start feeling connected. And that is how we move from random generation to intentional design using Firefly. So the first asset category is launch visuals. These are big high impact images we can use for product announcements, hero sections, YouTube thumbnails, launch posters, and social media covers. For FlowPilot, the launch visual should feel energetic but not chaotic. It should feel modern but not too science fiction, and it should support the product screen, not overpower it. So let's open Firefly and create a new board in Firefly and name it as FlowPilot Assets. So click on Generate Image. So I'll be using this. So I'll be using this prompt to generate the launch visuals. So I'll be using GPT image 2. So when you notice how the prompt is not just asking for a cool launch image, it includes the product category, what is the product purpose, and it includes the mood of the product, it includes the visual language, and it clearly says what we do not want to do. And that is how you generate assets that actually useful for design. So when reviewing launch visuals, do not choose the image only because it looks impressive. Let's click on generate. This is what it generated. So we can replace the UI screen with our original FlowPilot UI. But when you reviewing launch visuals, do not choose the image only because it looks impressive. So ask yourself better questions like, can I place the UI screen on it? Yes, you can place it. The Firefly itself given the UI screen on that particular background or on that particular image. And can I place a headline on this? Yes, there is some space, some white space where you can paste some headline here. Does it match the FlowPilot direction? We are thinking of about this direction, so it matches the FlowPilot direction. Is the composition clean enough? Yes. Does it feel like a startup productivity product? Yes. And for FlowPilot, can I reuse this in different formats? Yes. For FlowPilot, I would avoid anything too cinematic, too dark, too futuristic, or too complicated. The product should the product should feel like it is clear and useful, not like a science fiction movie poster. Next, we need to create backgrounds. Backgrounds are extremely important because they give you layouts, atmosphere without becoming the main focus. A good background should make the UI screen look better. It should add depth. It should create mood. It should give the layout a branded feeling, but it should not distract the actual product. For FlowPilot, we want backgrounds that are clean, soft, modern, and flexible. So let type. So let's type this. So let's type this exact prompt. We'll be using GPT-2 landscape, and let's keep the quality high and generate. So this type of prompt gives us reusable backgrounds. We can crop them for slides, use them behind product screenshots, use them in social carousels, use them inside Adobe Express later while we are creating all these assets. That is the point of an asset library. Every asset should have multiple possible use cases. So by using this, let's create some variations more like this. And yeah, and these are the different backgrounds we generated for our product flow pilot. Now let's create supporting illustrations. So these are not full hero images. These are small visual pieces that help explain product features. For example, FlowPilot. For example, FlowPilot might need illustration for planning a launch, organizing tasks, turning ideas into action, team collaboration, AI assisted planning, progress tracking. These illustrations can be used in feature cards, carousel slides, onboarding screens, or presentation tricks. So let's write this exact prompt. By typing this prompt, we are not just asking for one random illustration. We want multiple assets that follow the same style, same lighting, same color mode, same shape language, same depth, same level of detail. And this is what makes the system feel professional. And we can always export these illustrations to Adobe Illustrator and fine tune it and make it as a SVG icon. These are the supporting illustration created by Firefly. You need to take these as inspiration and create your version of illustrations in Firefly and take it to any SVG tool and fine tune it according to your requirement. Next asset category is textures. Textures are subtle, but they make a huge difference in the product. So they make a flat layout feel more premium. They can make a carousel slide feel less empty. They give your product communication a branded atmosphere. Pilot, we do not want heavy textures. We want subtle digital textures that feel modern and clean. So let's type this exact prompt. Pictures can be used in small ways, something like behind a product screen, inside a section background, on a carousel slide, on an Instagram carousel slide, or a LinkedIn carousel slide. They can also used as a soft overlay in a launch poster. The goal is not to make the texture noticeable. The goal is to make the design feel more complete. Texture it created, and I liked it. So let's create different variations of it. Different variations it created, variations of textures it created. And now at last we need to create graphic elements. So graphic elements are small reusable pieces that help build layouts faster. For FlowPilot, our graphic elements can be abstract workflow lines, connected dots, floating cards, soft glows, gradient blobs, small icon style elements, launch arrows, progress paths. So these are not complete images, these visual ingredients that connects with the users. Let's type this exact prompt. This is what Firefly has generated. I like this. These elements will become very useful in Adobe Express later. So when we design carousels, posters, or feature announcements, we can use these elements to create consistency. How simple asset library starts becoming a visual system. Once you generate all these things, do not immediately start using everything. First, do a consistency check. Put all these assets on a single Firefly board like this. Some questions. Do they feel like they come from one product? Are the colors connected? Is the lighting similar to other assets? Is the depth similar? Do the shapes feel related? Are some assets too detailed? Are some assets too generic? Can these visuals work together in one carousel or in one launch campaign? So this is where you start curating stuff. So a good asset library is not everything you generate. A good asset library is something you choose intentionally. Organize asset library like this. This step is simple. This step is simple, but it is important to organize everything you generated. So you create a launch visuals on one side, backgrounds in one side, supporting illustrations, textures, and graphic elements. And create another board for draft or rejected ones. The rejected section is also useful because it reminds us what to avoid. For FlowPilot, we will avoid something like overly science fiction visuals, heavy 3D objects, random futuristic sites, dark theme. So anything that is that I listed before, we will avoid that. And we will repeat soft gradients, workflow paths, clean space, floating cards, subtle depth, and organized energy. So this is how we maintain consistency. So that is why the draft or rejected assets is important to uh, to organize. In the next episodes, when we create a carousel, launch poster, or feature announcement and a final content kit, we will not start from zero. We already have the consistency and the visual language. We already know what our background should look like. We already have the support imagery. We already have the textures. We already have the graphic elements. So the design process becomes faster and more consistent. Asking what should this slide look like, we can ask which asset from our library fits in this slide. Is much better workflow. Our final asset library will include the launch visuals, some clean backgrounds, some supporting illustrations, some textures, and graphic elements. What to avoid, and this is also very important. Enough for now. We do not need to create hundreds of assets. We just need enough reusable presets to create polished product communication. So I believe in this, like a small consistent asset library is more powerful than a huge folder full of random images. Your assignment for this episode is to create your own asset library in Adobe Firefly. Use the visual direction you create in episode 2. So using that, generate 3 launch visuals, 5 backgrounds, 5 supporting illustrations, 3 textures, 10 graphic elements, and 1 avoid list. Do not worry about making everything perfect. The goal is to build a usable system. So once you have all your assets, place them in one Firefly board and check if they feel connected. If something feels random, remove it or regenerate it. If something feels too busy, remove it and regenerate it. If something doesn't support the product, remove it. So the final thing to remember is the asset library is not about collecting visuals, it's about consistency and quality. So that is how we create a consistent asset library using Adobe Firefly. So we now have launch visuals, backgrounds, illustrations, textures, and graphic elements, and that all belong to all the same visual world. So in the next episode, we will take these assets into Adobe Express and turn one product screen into polished social carousel with strong hierarchy, story, and layout. And do subscribe and see you again.